Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Peacock Sex. UJ here. Um, this episode is going to be a little different than the previous ones, which looked at the biological basis of the females of our species being a peacock sex and the males a drabber sex, echoing many other species, although in most species the male is the more flamboyant, expressive, attractive sex. We're reversed. But that was covered in the previous three episodes, but I'll always be returning to that since that's always cropping up. Uh, but this episode is about we're coming into the current world and talking about when the man has to lead. When a man has to lead, where it is beneficial for him to lead and the woman likes it that way. Now, when we say the sexes are equal, we do not mean identical. We are equal but not interchangeable, equal but dissimilar sexes. So we deserve equal consideration, equal thought about both sexes, but we are not interchangeable or switchable. And in relationships, you see these things crop up time and time again. Uh, and one of the important things for men to realize is you can be graded down if you don't lead. So in certain situations, um, and now that doesn't mean that women can't lead in certain situations. And in fact, I'll mention one at the end. I won't go into it deeply, but we're going to look at four areas from the simple to the more complex where a man today has to lead. So this would apply to all young men and all men really overall, but young men would might be particularly interested in this. Um, the first area where a man has to lead is when a couple is slow dancing, when a heterosexual couple slow dances. Now, this is sort of an easy one, and you're all sort of aware of this. Um, when a couple slow dances, if they're a new couple or just they've been dating a while, the man leads. Now, the woman likes it this way. She's used to this. This has been going on for thousands of years, and the feminists have not really raised a stink about this. They're not complaining, and you know, nobody is calling for the man to take out a coin at the point where he is about to slow dance with his girlfriend, and say, "Oh dear, let me flip for this. Let's see who leads," and then he flips. No, no. If he did that, his lady friend would sort of look at him and start to have doubts about him. So every time, and there have been billions of slow dances, the man leads, the woman follows. Uh, now, this is not dependent on who has the better job. Maybe they both have jobs. Maybe the woman has the more uh, noteworthy job. It doesn't matter. The man leads in all cases. Uh, Kamala Harris ran for president. Her partner is Doug. Now, had she won, there would have been an inauguration ball and celebration. And if she and Doug would have slow danced at this ball, Doug would have led and she would have followed in a slow dance. It's irrelevant who has the better job. It happens every time. And women are not really complaining about this. They want the guy to do his job. Do your job. And this is just one. It's an easy area to point to, and of course, you're not really having confused. You're not really confused about this, probably, right? I mean, you just do it as a matter of course. But I thought I would mention it since it maybe leads into other areas where the man also leads. Uh, Now, area number two, where the man leads. When a man asks a woman out to dinner, or more broadly, when he asked her out for a date, he plans the date. It's not a mutual enterprise there. Now, let me tell you a story about a young, well, it was actually a man in his late 30s who looked back at what he did in his early 20s on a date and realized that he had acted inappropriately. He did it wrong. And that led to him not getting a second date. In fact, he didn't even complete the first date, which is pretty bad. Okay, so the story was as follows, and I would credit the fella if I knew his name. I've forgotten it, but he told this story online. It was highly plausible, had the ring of truth. So I thought it was interesting to tell you about. Um, so he made arrangements to go out to dinner with a young woman. He was around 23. I guess she was around the same age. Um, they go out to a part of town. They drive to a part of town where there are a number of restaurants. They go into one promising restaurant. He asks for two menus, gives one to the young lady. All equal Smeagol here, right? Now she looks at the menu. He separately looks at the menu, and he asked her, "Do you see anything you like?" She's non-committal. So he says, "Okay," hands the menus back, goes to a second restaurant. Um, Again, the same scene unfolds. Asks for two menus, gives her one. She looks at the entrees. He looks at the entrees. He asked her, "Do you see anything you like? Anything strike your fancy?" Uh, she's non-committal, undecided. And they go to a third restaurant and perhaps a fourth. Same scene. They each look at separate menus. Um, and he asks the woman if she sees anything she likes. She's non-committal. Okay. She's getting hungrier by the minute. He has asked her out to dinner, not to review the city's menus. Um, doesn't he know a place? Can't he make up his mind? Um, Eventually, in his account, she just gets tired of this, leaves him and goes to Subway. Now, um, and that was totally plausible. He has asked her out to dinner. She's expecting dinner. Can he choose a place? He has to lead in that situation, not make it a mutual menu reading session. That's not what it is. It's a date. He's got to lead. Um, so at whatever point you would ask a woman out to dinner, and that's going to come at some point, right? Um, you, as the guy, should choose the place. Make it a place that you know. Make it simple so you're familiar with the place and its menu. You could even recommend an entree, um, a place where your friend works, something like that. Now, um, when you do that, you're taking a burden off your female partner. You're lifting a burden. She knows she's in good hands. She knows you're taking care of the place. You'll call and get reservations if you need to. You'll get her there. You'll get her home. You'll pick up the tab. Don't go Dutch. Pick up the tab. Um, now, so you lead when it comes to taking a woman out to dinner. Now, that leaves her time so she can concentrate on what she has to do. Um, such as maybe get her nails done, maybe get a manicure and a pedicure, or get her hair done, choose an outfit, whatever she's got to do. She then devotes that time to that, and then but she knows you know where you're taking her. You know, she doesn't have to then do more work in reading every menu in town. Now, this more broadly would also suggest that you should plan a date. It doesn't have to be a restaurant, right? but have some plan in mind, you know. By the way, sitting on a dorm room floor with your knees touching is not a date. It is something, I don't know what it is, but that's not a date. Okay. Um, okay, that's good. That's number two. Okay, so we have two of these areas. Okay. And they get progressively more interesting. Okay. Number three, um, protecting a woman, let's say your partner or a date or whatever, from dangers in the environment. The guy leads. That's why you're bigger than her. She chose that. She opted for that. It's not an accident. It's not an average. She actively pursued that. Okay. Now, let me mention the case of a couple in Colorado. This was recent, year or two ago. Uh, it's pictured on a couple leaves their house, married couple in their 40s. The security camera is on. They go out to their car. Husband goes to the driver's side. Wife goes to the passenger side. But the husband, as he's about to get in, he hears his wife screaming. She's screaming for help. He rushes over. A bobcat has jumped on her chest and is clawing at her. He grabs the bobcat and throws it off her. And that ends the worst part of the incident. Um, she has been injured in like 16 or 17 cuts just in that time. The bobcats are not huge, but they have claws and teeth. And um, now this bobcat was rabid, as you might suspect, and so they called animal control. Both the husband and wife got rabies shots. They were okay. Um, the wife credits her husband for saving her life. That's the guy's job in that situation. That's your job. Now, note what the guy didn't do. He didn't reach for his phone. He didn't go to a neighbor's house and knock on the door. He went to the source of the problem. He no doubt was untrained in bobcat removal methods. He doesn't need to be trained. Males have evolved to do this, and females um, appreciate this. Now, in a future video, we'll talk about how I know they appreciate this, how they know they're feeling this and thinking about this. Now, but but for current video, I'll just say, that's the guy's job. He leads. If you fail in a situation like that, the woman is going to start to subtract points, and there's going to be trouble, and she may break up with you. You know, she sort of expects this is part of what a guy does, just as in the restaurant, choosing the restaurant type thing. Oh, by the way, when I told my sister about the restaurant thing, just to double back to number two, um, I told her when a man and a woman go to a restaurant, the guy chooses the restaurant. And she's a little younger than me, but she does a lot of common sense, and she thought for a little bit, and she said, "Oh, takes charge, right? Takes charge." She sort of very quickly identified what it was from the female perspective. Takes charge. Um, Now, moving back to the bobcat, okay, bobcat removal. Note that that man did not receive any training. It's not based on training. No doubt, if he were a EMT, maybe he could have, or an animal control person or a vet, maybe he could have done it even more effectively. But just an everyday Joe will do this for a female partner. If a barking, a dangerous dog approaches and um, you cringe and hide behind your girlfriend, that's not going to be good for your relationship. She's going to start subtracting points. So this is not equal smequal. This is a situation where the man provides something that the woman does not. The woman does not protect the guy in dangerous situations, and guys don't expect that, but the woman expects it. Okay, and not that she's anticipating a dangerous situation, but um, y- um, but it's just a service men provide and still provide. So don't be too equal smequal about this. Okay, there are many ways in which the sexes are dissimilar, head to toe. We are dissimilar. We have dissimilar sexualities, dissimilar reproductive organs, yada, yada, yada. Um, Let me see if there was anything else I wanted to mention about that. Okay, so the guy acted instantly, probably just based on evolving as a male. That's just his male brain, his male attitude. He acted instantly and saved his wife's life. Now, that situation may not arise in your life. You may go through life without a dangerous situation, but if it happens, the guy has to go to the source of the problem. Um, Now we go to number four, probably the most interesting, is the man leads when it's time to initiate sex. The man is generally the leader. Um, he initiates what happens. Now, um, the Wall Street Journal had a very interesting article about this about a year ago. In fact, it was February 2023. That's actually 2 years now. And you could check it out and you could just put Wall Street Journal, February 2023, who initiates sex, the man or woman. And they gave an interesting case where a man was 62 or 63 and his female partner was 57. I don't know if they were married, but they were together and living together. So one night they get in the hot tub, enjoying each other, in the hot tub and nice. And they get out of the hot tub. The woman gets ready for bed and changes into a sexy nightgown. The man compliments her, like he notices that she's in something different than her normal bedwear or pajamas or whatever. He compliments her, and then he promptly falls asleep. Now, in talking to the reporters and in the woman indicated that she was disappointed. She wanted him to initiate sex, but she feels uncomfortable saying that. So, what she did is give a cue, like an actor's cue, to which she expects her longtime male partner to respond to that. He did not, although he even noticed the nightgown. Now, that's a typical guy, that could certainly happen. But there's reason to be alert here and to be observant. Okay. Now, um, now it's interesting that even at 57 and being sexually experienced person, this woman was reluctant to initiate sex, as she put it in the article. Which is strange. You would figure that, oh, well, when a woman's experienced, she would be fully ready to initiate sex, right? Not necessarily. Really, the females are the same their entire life. And if they're coy at 20, they're also coy at 57. They're the same their entire life, and they're cautious about intercourse at every age. So it's not dependent on their experience. A girl who's a virgin would be cautious about intercourse. So is a woman who had had five lovers. Probably doesn't matter. They're equally cautious, mostly. So now, what the woman was doing, she was providing a cue, as I said, CUE, to which she expects her male partner, knowing her, to respond. In this case, the 63-year-old guy did not respond, and that disappointed his partner. Just a note to the wise. I mean, you have to be observant. You have to notice these things. They're not going to be expressed verbally. Um, now, now let me read you this article, which the Kinsey Institute, which studies sex, has seen a clear difference, clear disparity between um, the male willingness to initiate sex and versus the female willingness to initiate sex. And here's the key paragraph. Research shows that heterosexual men are about twice as likely as heterosexual women to initiate sex with a partner. 50% of heterosexual men said they often or always are the sexual starters, compared with 28% of heterosexual women, according to studies conducted by a social psychologist with the Kinsey Institute. So this happens in our lives. We can observe it in our lives, but it also has the backing of academic studies. Now, let me mention a situation that happened to me when I was in my mid 20s. I was about 26, and and I was dating a young woman who's 24, and we had had some previous dates, and then we went to a party, nice party, and obviously some alcohol was served, and so we're riding home, and two roads diverge up ahead. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and long I stood. You know, one road led back to her house where she lived with her mother and her sister. The other road led to my apartment, which I shared with a roommate, but we had separate bedrooms. And my female partner knew that. Now, before we got to the fork in the road, she looks at her watch. This is a Saturday night. She looks at her watch and goes, "It's still early." Really? Is she the Greenwich Observatory? Like, it's still early. Hmm. Well, like any 26-year-old guy in the history of the world would give the would give that give the response that I did. Oh, would you like to come back to my apartment for a while? She said yes, and that was consent to intercourse, unless there was an earthquake between where we were and where my apartment was. Now, so that was her cue that she wanted me to react to. It's just like the getting in the nightgown from the previous woman. The cue in the case of my friend was looking at her watch and announcing that it was still early. Let me see. How can we fill the time between when it's early and when it's late? Hmm, I don't know. I'm a fawn in the forest. I have no idea. Well, I sort of kind of thought that I did have an idea. Um, so we went back to my apartment and I drove her home the next morning and she wanted to get home before her mom woke up, always these issues. But but she wanted me to initiate there. Note what she didn't say. She didn't say, "Hey, doesn't your apartment have a bed in it, sailor boy? Why don't we go back there and roll around in that bed for a while?" Which is what women will never, never say. Probably they will never say. They're giving a cue. Now, why would that be? Why would they be hesitant why would females who are sexually experienced well into their 20s and older be hesitant about initiating the move to having sex? I think that is because intercourse is fraught for females. It is fraught every time. It can lead to their pregnancy and death from pregnancy or death in childbirth. It's got a host of issues. It can lead to strong regrets. It could lead to the feeling that they're being taken advantage of by a guy, even though they might be attracted to the guy. So I think the intercourse is fraught. Now, so what the women are trying to do is to, and the burden is on the females. I mean, in the uh, in sexual intercourse, it's only the woman that could get pregnant. It's only the woman that has the worst outcomes. The guy has fairly good outcomes, certainly in the near term. And we'll talk more about this. So, what the woman is doing is offloading the burden of sex to the guy by having him make the move that initiates sex. She'll give a cue, but then he will initiate. So, and in the aftermath, let's say it doesn't turn out in the aftermath uh, as well as the woman might have liked. Um, she can say to herself, well, um, you know, he suggested going back to his apartment. I didn't suggest it. So they're offloading the responsibility for having sex by just giving little cues that they would like to have sex with their partner. And this would include married women doing this also. Um, Sexually experienced women, as well as women who are inexperienced. So they're offloading the responsibility for sex in the event that it doesn't live up to expectations and that the woman regrets it somewhat. Now she can sort of put the blame on the guy a little rather than take full responsibility for this fraught activity. And I do not blame women for that at all. I think that's kind of cool, you know. But I think that's what women are doing. So the guys have to be alert to these cues that the women are giving, and you have to take charge. Just as in those other situations when there's a threatening environment, when you're planning a date with your partner, yada, yada, yada. Now, before I end, let me mention a situation in which where the woman seems to take the lead. I won't go into great depth on this, maybe in the future. And that's with the so it's not as if women don't take the lead in some areas. They do. Now, one of them would be the move toward cohabiting. Who's the one who brings it up? Who's the one who says, "Oh, we're spending so much time together. Why pay for two apartments?" It's the woman. She initiates the move toward cohabitation, to living together. Why? Because living together is a quasi marriage. And so, you know, a couple that's about to cohabit is already in an intimate relationship. And, the woman would like to keep some tabs on the guy she's in this relationship with. He's probably very content to just continue seeing her, to leave on Sunday night and come back on Friday. Well, what's he doing in the meantime? His female partner has concerns. She'd much rather have a perch to monitor him, monitor his comings and goings, just make sure he's on the up and up, and is not with other women after he leaves Saturday night. So Um, so that's just a situation. I mean, we'll probably revisit that in the future. I don't know of any research that backs that up, but I think that is the case. Um, Cohabitation is a quasi marriage. It's a close to a marriage, and often when a couple cohabits, they often get engaged and marry after subsequently. So uh, it makes sense that the woman is going to push forward there, and the guy is willing to let it go on. Seems like a good situation for him. The woman will push for cohabiting. So that's an area where the woman leads, and which is often the case. And I believe in most of those situations, if you studied all the living together couples and asked them who brought it up first, who first mentioned living together, mostly it's going to be the woman. So anyway, well, that's about all for now, and I hope you press the like button. I hope you subscribe. There's going to be many more interesting topics. We're such a complex species, especially the female. So complex, so interesting. So all I'll ask for you is to subscribe and advance. Subscribe and advance. See you later. See you next time.